There we go. So now it's recording. So I'm going to get a transcript and a summary, and then we can use the transcript to help build out what we need to do. So you can overload without worry.
Great. Okay. So generally, as the question of can this be for parents and clinicians at the same time? Yes, I definitely think so. I think what will help with that is kind of talking about the principles first without trying to target anyone specifically. And then having sections that are specific to parents, like how does the parent apply this in the home, and how does the counselor apply this in session, and kind of make those very divided and obviously divided with headers that identify them, that are consistent from chapter to chapter. And the reader kind of comes to expect that of, okay, we're going to learn the concept first, and then I read the section that is specific to me afterward.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there are already kind of sections like that, and it would just be a factor of like copying and pasting and then kind of shifting things around, transitions and stuff like that, which I can do.
Okay.
And I also wanted to and kind of linked to that, the idea of like standard headers in each chapter will make it easier for readers to skim to find specifically what they want. I think that's something that we talked about.
Yes, I definitely want that. Definitely.
Yeah. So kind of coming up with standard headers of like, this is talking about the principle. This is an applicable story. This is an exercise you can apply. And so they come to expect that every chapter. They get a habit loop of how I'm supposed to interact with this book. And so it becomes easier to interact with it as they go along. And they can skip things that aren't applicable to them, go to a chapter that is something they want to talk about.
Yes, exactly what I want it to be. Because nobody has time to read a book anymore. You know,
it's true.
And you know, for something like this, it's like I might, if I'm a parent, I might struggle in this section, but I don't need this chapter. You know, but that's exactly what I've been trying to do.
Yeah. Kind of so they know what chapters to skip. I'm playing with the idea of an introduction that kind of similar to a table of contents, but a little more detailed of like, if you have this problem in your home, read this chapter. If you're struggling with this in your clinical sections, read this chapter.
Okay.
To kind of, in the same way that like you...
Like a brief little summary of each chapter.
Or like, not quite a summary, more like linking the problem to the solution. Because they're going to go read the chapter and then they'll get all that information. It's more like, if you have this issue, read this chapter.
Got it.
In the same way that like you watch an ad on YouTube and it's like, if you have dry skin, try this cream.
Right. Got it. Yeah.
It's not going to explain all the ingredients in the cream or how to use it. It's just go try the cream.
You have that problem. Yes. Yeah. That's what I did. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking of kind of doing an outline of an intro, and then you can go in and flesh it out with problems that you think would be good, and then I can tweak wording.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm gonna write that down as one of my to-dos.
And like I said, the transcript will give you a to-do too. It will say Tina that she's going to do this.
Yeah, and that will be definitely a good resource for me. Writing things out also helps me kind of formalize what I'm going to do and remember it. So doing both works for me.
Right. Great.
Okay, I think those. And then I love all of the stories. I think the stories are really good in engaging like the emotions and empathizing with the parent's experience and the clinician's experience. I think most of the stories seem to be about your parenting experiences, right? There's not a lot of, this is what I do in session. Do you want to add more of those stories? Do you have more of those stories?
Like, well, I can't really add, I did add some clinical stories. I know there's a few little sprinkled. What do you think is missing that I need to add?
Maybe I'm thinking about, you had talked about this book, you wanted this book to address your experience with clinicians not being able to apply concepts in session. And giving them examples of what applying these things in session looks like will help with that.
Okay.
Um, I know that can be difficult because of privacy, like trying to keep your client's information anonymous. Um, do you need to get permission if you don't use their names or any identifying information?
Well, I mean, I do, but I don't. I mean, I could say any, like I've had 5 clients that I've had issues with. If I say, I think, like I said, I was working with a 15-year-old, well, it was really an 18-year-old. So,
Mhm.
that's how I just kind of went past that. So you're saying that in your skimming of it, that as a clinician, you don't think there was enough information to know how to apply it.
Yeah, and again, I was skimming, and I know there are some activities that are like, this is a thing you can take the
Mhm,
parent through.
mhm.
I think what the stories about your counseling experiences will add is your emotional experience as a counselor.
Okay.
The stories as a parent help address the parent's emotional experience, but there isn't a lot of the counselor's emotional experience.
Okay. Well, I could talk to some of my counselors that are all like, ah!
Yeah, and which chapter was it that talks about like emotional overwhelm and how it's hard to apply something if the child is emotionally overwhelmed?
Are you
Um,
talking about the subscale?
yeah, of
Yeah.
like if the counselor gets overwhelmed in session and they don't know how to handle their emotions as a counselor, then it's going to be hard to go through any of these activities, apply any of these principles because they think they're supposed to be clinical and logical as a counselor when they need to be aware of their own emotions.
Yeah, there's actually a book called oh crap. It's by Lisa Dion, and it's like something in the playroom. And that's what she goes over in that. Um like when you have to like pay attention to, I guess she had a lot of anxiety. I don't, about things like that. And so she,
Mhm.
like, when a kid comes at you with a bat to hit you in the playroom, you're
Mhm.
she got all like, this is triggering something for her. And so being more cognizant about her experience. And so that's what she brings up. So you're kind of talking more about having, like, when I become overwhelmed with this parent and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
So
have
like,
to talk to the other people. I'm pretty good. I'm very confident in myself.
mhm.
but
Yeah. And I
but
think like
yeah.
the most minimal way to address that would just be to add a section in the SUD scale chapter of this is how a clinician would apply this to themselves in session. Um, and then it might come up in other chapters, but I feel like that's the most logical place to include it. And then again, just adding more personal stories from the clinician's emotional perspective in like a couple of other chapters.
So my thought is this book is saying, okay, you have this parent that doesn't know how to parent this kid. They've tried everything. They've watched all this. They've read all these books or whatever. And they come to me as a clinician. And I am like, okay, so first we got to understand your family history. And then we got to go and understand chapter 2, which we need to have routine and things in place. So that's really like how I address the client. Like, and if they already know a lot about their family, then I would go and use something else. So, like last Thursday, I worked with a client and or a parent. It was I think I even put it in the story. The this the parents are divorced, and trying to help them, and I was talking about routines and building a contract. Like, this is important, this kid needs to have routines and a contract. So I take that information and I present it to the parents. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
wanting the counselor to do. Like, it's not really about their emotional experience in there. But
Mhm.
like I said, I don't have that problem. I started
Right.
babysitting when I was 8. I have a lot of
Hmm.
confidence in myself, but who I'm addressing doesn't. So
Yeah.
one thing I have learned as a presenter and being in supervision is I don't have problems like normal counselors do. Like I get it,
Hmm.
and I move forward and I have confidence in myself. But that's where other people don't. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you kind of saying that, because I could take this book and know how to put it together, go boom, 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 boom. But the whole point is it's not for that kind of person. They're not going
Hmm.
to need the book.
Yeah. If they're already confident, then I feel like they're going to find resources elsewhere and just apply them.
And yes, yeah. And that's what I've
Yeah.
done. That's what I've
Yeah.
done. So, yeah, I think I need you to explain a little bit more in the chapters of what you're wanting. And I have a wonderful retired school teacher of 20 years that just started working for me, and she's all nervous about everything.
Hmm.
And I can definitely have her help me with her nervousness. And then I have another
Hmm.
counselor that's 26. So, again, she doesn't have the kids. So, definitely want your opinion of what you feel is missing that would add value.
Okay. I will try and tag things as I go along. Definitely it's like the emotional thing of I really loved the parts where I found the activities that are just to help the parent fill their own bucket. Like,
Hmm.
how do I set personal boundaries so
Hmm.
that I feel emotionally safe, my physical needs are taken care of, um, so that I am now able to reach out to the child, to reach out to other people in my family and communicate. Um, and like that sort of thing, like
Yeah.
adding more content just as a general principle that helps the reader feel safe emotionally so that they're able to open up and accept the strategies and ideas that you're giving them,
Okay.
and then practice applying them. Um, and so, specifically, that would be again more emotional stories from counselors, which you're going to talk to your
Mm.
coworkers about. Um, on a sentence level, I will look for this kind of reducing the absolute language like must and you cannot do this, because that, for me personally,
No, no, yeah,
triggers
I wouldn't
a
want that.
fear response of like,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I wouldn't want that, because that's totally
mhm,
anti me. Because
yeah,
I'm all about the don't do the shoulds.
uh-huh.
So we
Yeah,
can't have the book have that.
I have my own therapist actually that I see every couple of weeks, and one of the things that she is constantly correcting me on is my should-isms.
Mhm.
Like I'm like, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. And she's like, okay, let's reframe that.
When you say the word should, you raise the
Mhm,
bar for yourself. And see, that's the thing. Like, I I have so much I can add. So that's what, so when you say the should, what you're doing is this is what I say in counseling, you're raising the invisible bar for yourself.
mhm,
So, what do you need to do to bring it down? So I think I shared in this story about this little girl. I don't know. Remind me if I didn't. But this little girl who was a dancer, and we were playing bounce off to help work on. Um, so how I play the game is you bounce the ball on the table, and you follow this card to get 3 balls to go in the same order. And so I have her do it a couple times, and then I say, okay, now there's only 4 balls. How many times do you think it will take you? And I'm very manipulative how I say it. There's only 4. She's like, oh, four
mhm,
times. I'm like, okay. And then it takes her 10 times to do it. And she's like, well, why can't I do this? I'm like, well, I can because I've been practicing for years. You
mhm,
can't, because you just are learning. And I think I said in the end, towards the end of the book, like maybe that's on mastery, maybe it's chapter 8 on mastery. And like kids now at 4 think they should be the best at something. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that should
mhm,
be thought about when you're 4. And so then she came back to me, and I taught her, bring down that bar of expectation. you're just learning. You're just learning, Tina, how to be a mom. There's no should.
Mhm.
You're just
Yeah,
learning. And then once you learn it for this little fella, then the next one's going to be completely different because they're polar
exactly. Yeah.
opposite, the first and second one. The third one that you're going to have, that one's going to be the one that's going to help everybody get along. So everybody stops having kids at 2. And I'm like, you're missing the equalizer. You got to have him in there. Because the first 2, if you look at everybody you know, their first 2 are complete polar opposites.
Mhm.
So this
Yeah.
little girl comes in and she says to me, she's like, Miss Lisa, I went fishing with my papa and I said I was going to get, whatever amount of fish. And then I remembered what you said. And then she said like she was going to get 2 fish and then she got 3. Well, see, that was a more realistic number and she was able to make it instead of
Mhm.
I should have gotten 10 because no, you shouldn't have. You're just
Right.
learning. You're a kid. There's not even 10 fish in the pond. You know,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
so that's what's just so important that, those shoulds and, if I didn't go enough details, I think the shoulds are all in with the subscale. If there's more things that you think would be helpful for parents, it's okay however this grows. One thing I've learned with writing the children's books is if you look at my original copy, my second
Mhm.
copy, and my 10th copy, oh my gosh, it has evolved to a whole different document.
Yeah.
That's okay. So,
We like the end result so much better. So
yes. My children's book is I'm so excited. It's phenomenal. I love it.
I'm excited to read them. I did not get to them, but I really want to. So,
No.
um,
You'll
as
like
far
the
as
Talia's Racing Thoughts because it's about the should. So definitely read
oh,
that.
good, good. Yeah. So, we don't have to worry about those wordings right now. I feel like that's more like an end level thing. I'll just do like a find and replace for those kinds of things. Oh, as far as like, so that's like the absolute language, like the should, the must, the cannot kind of thing. And then in the same vein, like kind of reducing the negative language. I know you talked about the metaphor of like seeing the donut of the child instead of the
Mhm.
donut hole.
Mhm.
And there was one part somewhere where you were talking about, okay, this is how the parent is supposed to script themselves through the child's negative behavior. And you say, oh, they're just trying to manipulate me. That's okay. I'll do something else. And using the word manipulate kind of implies a bad motivation on the part of the child. And so switching it to something like they're trying to persuade me or test me, something just a
Sure.
little less charged, stuff like that.
Yeah, no
So,
problem.
okay.
Manipulate is something I use all the time.
Hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
okay in my language. That doesn't mean it's okay in the book. So it's totally fine. Like seriously,
Yeah.
like I don't care about things like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I understand. I understood what you meant by it. I have just seen the word manipulate used in a lot of areas where people will misinterpret it and be
Mhm.
like, oh, this means you think that the child is a bad person, which is not true.
Mhm.
So if we just avoid it, we avoid that whole rabbit hole.
Sounds great.
Um, let's see, what else? I think uh as I was reading it, I was having again a lot of ideas of, oh, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And then I had kind of stopped myself to be like, okay, we need to avoid scope creep because there's only so much this book could do.
Mhm.
Um, and I have noticed that it focuses a lot on verbal techniques of talking to the child, having the child understand you, and going from there, which makes it targeted toward parents with a specific age of child, of like verbal and older, right? So
Mhm.
it's not going to be as useful for people with infants
Mhm.
specifically, and that's okay. Um, let's see. But in the vein of that, of like recognizing that the book can only address so many things, we have an opportunity to start to refer people to your other resources,
Mhm.
like your seminars and your worksheets and whatever else you have available. And I was thinking about ways that we can do that without cluttering the book up. Um, how do you feel about like QR codes,
Yeah,
hyperlinks
we
in the
already
PDF
have that
format?
planned to do a
Okay,
QR code for, so I don't know if, have you had a chance to go look at my website yet?
I have not, no.
Okay, so type in right now training.parsonscounseling.com. So this is my training institute. And what could be really amazing about this
Hmm.
is me being able to get so many leads. by people that buy the book. So if you go and
Mhm.
you see all my trainings, you see I do them as in person, live webinars, or on demand. And then once I do them as
Mhm.
a live webinar, I change it to a demand. I do have an early childhood curriculum.
Okay.
And there's tends to be a lot of money in early childhood, I've come to learn.
Mhm.
And so I do plan on taking these concepts to daycares. That's my long-term plan. So I think there will be a book
Mhm.
for early childhood. It's just not in the live webinar format for me to get the transcript yet.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Okay, so my thought with that is because you already have the website available, having a QR code either at the end of the book, the
mhm,
beginning of the book, or possibly in each individual chapter
mhm.
that will take them to a page on your website that has resources specific to that topic. And all they have to do is scan the QR code. You're not putting like a bunch of different links in the chapter, nothing like that. And then the QR code for the chapter will take them to the page that has like, links to your webinars, whatever other resources, so that they can choose from that, but it's not cluttering up the book.
Yeah, so my thought was that they would go into Thinkific, which is the training platform, and they would
Mhm.
sign up, and then they could go in and get the resources for this book. So if I make that free and available to everybody, then that means that
Mhm.
people could go and get my resources without buying the book. That could be an issue, but at the same
Mhm.
time, if they're that interested when you sign up to Thinkific, then I can go do mass emails to people and say, hey, I have this new chapter, or hey, there's this video. And I do plan to have a YouTube channel just, one step at a time. Maybe the YouTube channel's next year. I'll try to get all
Mhm.
these things done.
Yeah. The reason I'm going for like the QR code that goes to a page with a list on it means that they don't have to, like, they're reading the book, they're enjoying it, they realize that it doesn't have everything that they want, and then they are presented with a QR code that says, if you want more stuff that goes further than this book, scan this to look at things. That's a very low bar invitation.
Okay.
And if the QR code says, scan the QR code to sign up for my institute and get emails and all of these other things, that's a very high bar invitation.
I gotcha. So what would be in this low bar?
Yeah, so in the low bar, it would take you to a page that is probably an outline format that is divided by chapter. And say, if you want to learn more about this topic, click on these links to sign up for this course, to read more about this thing, that sort of thing. And
Okay.
then they can choose more specific links to click on to sign up for more things as they're interested.
Okay. We can do it.
Okay, so, and I'm thinking if we do that outline, then the QR code would be at the back of the book.
Okay.
And there would only be one page for you to deal with, one QR code for us to troubleshoot and make sure it works. And then, whenever I notice a part in a specific chapter where I imagine the reader going, wait, what about this?
Hmm.
If it's appropriate, if it won't distract too much, kind of directing them to the QR code at the back of the book for more resources
Okay.
and just kind of moving on.
Okay.
Um, right. Any more thoughts about that?
No, no, that's all
Okay,
aligned with what we had planned to do.
great. Okay. Um, let's see. And here you go. I wrote all my notes and they're kind of all over the place.
That's okay.
Oh, the key takeaway sections. In the same vein, changing those to kind of a more of a bullet list format rather than a paragraph, because it's again easier to skim and summarize core concepts um, that they've already read paragraphs about.
I would
Um,
keep telling chat, no, don't put in bullet point, put it in a paragraph. And then I was talking to somebody recently and I'm like, I don't like bullet points. I don't like sending people emails and bullet points. And somebody was like, but ADHD loves bullet points. I'm like, seriously? I think it was my client a couple days ago was telling me that. I'm like, I'm like, try to always do a thing in paragraphs. So that's funny that that comes up twice.
Yeah, I think like the paragraphs and the bullet points serve different purposes in my experience. Like the paragraph immerses you in an idea and you're kind of in this flow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an investment, right, in focus, because you have to focus through the entire paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if there are bullet points with a lot of white space in between them, it's easy to kind of read that one. Okay, I'm done. I get a little hit of dopamine. Read the
Mm-hmm.
next bullet point. Okay, I'm done. Get a little hit of dopamine. And it kind of
Mm-hmm.
it's more restful because they get little pauses.
Mm-hmm.
So if they spent the whole time reading the whole chapter, they've spent all of that focus, and it's easier to kind of sit back and say, okay, I get a few little rewards, and it helps review the information.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So you don't want the whole book to be bullet points, obviously, but putting them in here and there can give a little break mentally. Mhm. Another question about like your target audience, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are the target parents already going to be in therapy, or do they need to be convinced that therapy is worth their resources? Um,
Um, Originally, I had planned to be this for parents and counselors, and I decided it was just going to be easier to make it more just for counselors. Then, with me, like I said, the last few weeks, I've been spending a lot of time saying, well, I just wrote this chapter on, I just wrote this chapter. And I'm like, well, maybe they need it. And so for me, it's like if I'm going through this as a clinician, I can say, here's the book. Go get this book on Amazon, and this will go through it in more detail. And if a parent is reading it, I don't think a parent needs to be in counseling. I know that the parent is struggling with a kid and looking for answers. And this is really a quick reference. It's not meant to be like, like you got to go read 1, 2, 3 Magic. You've got to go watch the video of Choices, Cookies, and Kids. Like you're going to have to immerse yourself in other material. This is just to help. So I don't know. I'm a counselor.
Okay.
Like I go and I'll teach this to my nieces and nephews, that are adults and say, hey, da 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 da. So I don't know. How do I answer your question?
I think the reason that I'm asking is that people who are resistant to the idea of therapy in general are going to have a hard time engaging with this book, which is just going to happen. If you want to try and draw in people who are reluctant to engage with therapy in general, it's going to be very labor intensive. And if we just say we're just going to target people who are in therapy and people who aren't in therapy but aren't resistant to the idea, that will help me know how to address various topics.
The purpose of this is to help counselors work with parents and children. If they are not, I think most people, if they are resistant to counseling, they're not going to be choosing this as a book anyway.
Okay.
What do you think?
That simplifies things.
I don't want to overwork to get somebody who may or may not read the book anyway. My clients that are coming to me, bringing their kid to me, their parent might not be in counseling, but they are so desperate to find solutions. So to me, it's for that parent that's really desperate to find solutions and open.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great approach for it. I just needed to check because one of the things you expressed was that you wanted the book to be more broadly applicable, and I'm kind of like tweaking the scope to see,
Yeah.
okay, where is the line here? So
Yeah.
testing the boundary, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, don't you
okay.
agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think that because if we just keep it simple,
Mhm.
it's got some really good resources, and we say, here's the book. If you want to buy it and open it, sure. If not, that's totally fine. We're not going to fight you over it.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I think this is totally fine. Um, I think those were all of my big things. Mm.
I know, like, my daughter is 23, she's almost 24, and she has a 7-month-old. And, she's really been frustrating to raise because she's had YouTube and then she had Pinterest, and she didn't need her mother because
Mhm.
all the resources are there. And even now, she never asks me any questions when we talk almost every day, um, because she knows all the answers because they're all there.
Uh-huh.
And and I feel like people come to me and trust me because I have 5 children, because
Mhm.
I've learned, um, and, I don't have traumatized kids. I don't have, I have some kids that now I've learned have ADHD, but, this is also not the traumatized child. And, this is not the, you can still use these methods, but that's the other thing I think needs to be probably a disclaimer too, because not like the positive parenting and all of these concepts, they're really great. And I believe in empowering the child, and that's what this is about. If you can learn to empower your child. So I want to empower the parents to empower the child. That's my
Mhm.
therapeutic lens. Um, that's what I want it to be. I can take a child that's and maybe there needs to be a chapter before we get into all of it. I mean, I did a little intro, but maybe there needs to be an intro chapter that kind of,
Mhm.
has those disclaimers like my children, have their perception, but they weren't didn't have any huge big T traumas. Um,
Mhm.
and they had 2 parents that weren't divorced. So this is my lens, which is not like everybody else.
Mhm.
Where a lot of these kids are being raised in 2 homes. With 1-2-3 Magic, my husband didn't get on board with it for at least 3 years, and I was still able to use it. And I've seen through the years that I am able to help parents even if one parent comes on board. And in working with traumatized children, these techniques, the child-centered play therapy language, it works. It helps to build their confidence in themselves. So
Mhm.
that's what we want to see, that we're building kids' confidence in themselves instead of putting pressure on.
Mhm.
And that's, so maybe there needs to be, as the book evolves, that there needs to be another chapter before we get into the 8 techniques that work to kind of
Mhm.
help set it up for the parent and the counselor to understand the limitations of this book. Because I know, like, when you go to Amazon, people will say, I keep seeing this person running in and out. Um, uh,
That's my husband. He
I
is helping the nanny with baby. So
I figured. Just keep seeing it. Um, so I think some of the limitations, some things that I have found, I mean, regulation is going to be key if this is a really distraught child. And there probably needs to be more information for dysregulation because that's what we have a lot now, especially after COVID. We have just
Mhm.
severe behavior problems in the
Yeah.
school and things like that.
Mhm.
So parents are really seeking for help. So I think if we're going to say that this is for parents, that maybe there needs to be a little bit more meat or
Hmm.
salad.
Yeah, I really like that idea. Like as you were like talking and describing it, I'm like this feels really good. I like
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
Um, so um I think we can probably treat it as an introduction.
Hmm.
And have that come even before the problem solution thing that I
Okay.
talked about.
Hmm.
Um, and kind of organize the book kind of on the SUD scale. This
Hmm.
might involve changing the chapter order so
Hmm.
that we address the fear first, get them to a calm emotional space, and then kind of move from there.
Hmm.
Um, you know more about the SUD scale than I do. Um, could you reorder the chapters just generally so you feel like they're closer to that order?
I mean, I don't care.
I just
Again,
know I'm gonna have to like think through it a
as
lot more because I'm not familiar with it.
yeah, as a counselor, I think it's really important to understand before you get to the work, understand the past. And that's what the first chapter is about.
Yeah.
Understanding where you've come from, your perception. My daughter told me that I was a terrible parent because I had a fight with my husband when she was 6 years old and it scared her. And,
Mm-hmm.
you scared me, Mom, and I've carried that fear with me through my life. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. That doesn't mean I'm a terrible parent. It means there was
Mm-hmm.
a moment and you took that information in as fear. And, it's just really fun to watch her be a parent and just kind of giggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you add that story to chapter one? If you're comfortable with it.
I'll have to ask her if she's
Okay.
okay with that. I did talk to her last night because I was telling her I was asking her older brother for permission to use the story about Talia. And she's like, "You never asked me if that was okay." I'm like, "You know what? You're just part of my professional journey. You don't have a choice."
Mm-hmm.
And if you did give me such great material, but like it's easy to protect the boys because there's four.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
and how raw and open do we need to be? Could we say
Right.
it was somebody else's story? My child has to grow up, and if, let's
Mm-hmm.
just say, this book became very popular, does that make her look like
Yeah.
she's not a good kid, or would that hurt her self-esteem?
Mm-hmm. I think what would help is to center your experience rather than hers in the story, because the important part, I think, is to prepare the parent emotionally for the task of thinking back through all of the mistakes they may have made.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you may not even need to say my daughter. You could say one of my children
Mm-hmm.
once said that I saw my parents fighting, it scared me,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me think that, and I told them later
Yeah,
that they were bad parents. Like that's
yeah,
as much
something like
information as you
that
need.
totally could
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
And then you get to kind of focus more on, and that made me feel afraid about all of the choices that I had made, and I had to work through that. Now we're going to talk about your history as the reader. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't panic over any mistakes you might have made. And it can be that simple, is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful to be a counselor because when she said it to me,
Hmm.
I was like, "Well, that's just your perception. I get it. That's your perception. I thought my parents were terrible parents. Now they're gone." And I'm like, "No, they were great." Like it's just our
Hmm.
perception of how we felt in that moment. And I've learned so
Yeah.
much about that.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that hmm, that may even be enough as far as starting the book and making them feel emotionally safe. Maybe even like doing a little story that tiny at the beginning of each chapter of like, okay, let's address the emotional part.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to feel them and then kind of move on. But let's start with chapter one, see how that works out. Just add that story, ask your daughter, obviously.
Well, I mean, if you
Um,
say it like this, one of my kids said, then that's five. You know,
okay,
that's
right.
not two. But if I say
Yeah.
my daughter, there's only one. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, I think it would be
Yeah.
better just to say one of my children said, and really the truth is I was grateful that I had all this knowledge behind me to not be
Hmm.
hurt. Because if this happened 5 years ago, I would have been a puddle. I would have been
Mm-hmm.
crying. How could you say that about me? Like, you know,
Right.
I would have felt terrible. But now I'm just like, I get it. That's your perception. And with all of
Mm-hmm.
the healing work that I do a lot of energy work and hypnotherapy, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this really is healing. You know, like we
Mm-hmm.
all have stuff when we were 5. That's just her stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As much as you want to like just do like a transcript of this this conversation, and like we'll see where that goes, whether it's
Yeah.
at the beginning of chapter 1 or a whole introduction all by itself. I feel like this whole thing that you're describing is what we're looking for.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
I have all the stories. Not a problem.
Hmm. I love the stories. I grew up reading fiction. That was my primary entertainment. And so every time stories, like, yes. When I'm in therapy with my counselor, I've noticed that basically, like, I tell stories the entire time, and she listens to me and, like, gives me
Uh-huh.
feedback and corrects me where needed. And then at the end, she's like, okay, let me give you some clinical definitions for what we've just talked about. And then that's it. So I love the stories. Love the stories.
Good.
Um, okay. I probably need to go in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
What would be, what do we want to do with that time remaining?
Okay, so I guess my question is, do you feel I need to take what I currently have and try to run it through AI to make it something, or do you feel the way that it is, you're just going to rewrite what needs to be written?
I think I can take it as is and
Great.
work with it. I just wanted to check methodology with you.
Yep.
I think the main thing I would like from your end
Yes.
is kind of a decision on whether we want to work with the chapter order as it is or try and reorder it to follow SUDS.
What do you mean to follow SUDS?
Of like the main thing was like addressing the emotion first, which now that I think about it, is probably will be addressed with that story that you talked about. So I probably just need like a transcript or a draft of that information, that story that you just told, which might come out of this call.
You will. You'll have
Okay.
it.
Um,
Well,
and
I'll
then
send you
I
the
will,
full transcript, and then you can just throw it through AI and say, pull the story out that she said, and then throw it in.
yeah, and depending on its length, I will either make it an introduction or tag it to the front of chapter 1.
Okay.
Um, and at that point, I think that I will have enough to just start messing with it.
Okay.
Um, so,
Yeah,
and then that will,
I I think that now I did change the layout. I did have chapter 5 and 6 I swapped. Because I was
mhm,
like, well, we need to, before we do choice giving, we need to address fear and guilt or something. So I moved fear and guilt. And if fear and guilt needs to be kind of earlier, I don't really have any problems with that, because if you have fear and guilt, you can't parent. So if that needs to be moved up earlier, that's not a problem. Um,
mhm,
but like number 1 is about understanding your history. And I think as the reader, to me, as you were saying, makes you feel safe.
mhm,
Um, I'm not getting into deep stuff. I'm not scaring you out of the stuff.
mhm,
Then the second one is about routines and thinking about your family traditions and those things that you're bringing forward. Um, I have this training online, and one person that was in the training, she's like, we don't have any family traditions in the past.
uh-huh.
And
Well,
and she's one of my new employees, and I'm like, wow, that's really sad. And so I said, well, I'm
mhm,
making new ones with your family. Like,
yeah,
and so like, if you have questions as you're going through this, that's like, I feel like more like that one employee who doesn't have the family. I have the family, you
mhm,
know, but readers are not. So maybe we also need to think about what is missing in the book. What's missing
mhm,
from divorced people. I mean, I wasn't worried about that originally, because my stories were about helping the clinician know how to give this to a client. I wasn't worried about those stories. But if we're looking at parents, we're looking at single parents, divorced parents, grandparents. And so maybe we need to think about that.
The disclaimer of, if your experience doesn't look like the stories in this book, that's okay.
Well, that's okay, but what other stories can we put in to be helpful? And I mean, I could go talk to Brianna right now and say, okay, you know, in your free time, read this chapter and tell me what I need to do to add to it, because your family doesn't look like this.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Just like talking to more counselors, more people who have a different family experience than you do, and be like, okay, if you were going to engage with this topic, what problems are you running into based on your experience? Just talk to me, get more information.
Right. And then I can add stories. Yeah.
Yeah. I may make a list of just like people who aren't currently visible in this book, maybe, and who do we want to address? Who do we want to let go? Can you get any stories that are relevant to these or not? And kind of go from there, just kind of information gathering mode.
Yeah, I mean, I read a book on DID, and the woman spent a lot of time getting stories from other people, and saying, you know, and so we could add more of that if that's needful.
Okay. I think just like decide to just start making notes about like, what about this person? What about this person? And then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay. All right. In terms of what I want to get done this next week, I'll have the transcript from this call, and you'll be collecting clinician stories, anything else. So I will probably work on the introduction and then try and start coming up with large scale structures for each chapter, like those repetitive headers to track people, and see how much I can get done past that. And those are my specifics.
Okay. And you said you have about 2.5 hours a week.
Yeah, about that.
Okay. All right. Well, so then what is your plan to reach out again or touch base? What do you think works for you?
I will probably just kind of like make notes, questions, maybe send them to you in an email on Wednesday. And then if we feel like it's appropriate, doing another video call next Friday. I feel like this is really helpful because we get the back and forth brainstorming part of it, which is really good. Once we get it more solidified, the video calls may be less needed, but I think maybe planning on a weekly video call and a midweek email will help keep us in touch. Okay. All right.
So let me look. Next week, I don't have a 12 o'clock. I have a client at 12. So I would have an 11 o'clock, or I could have a 2 o'clock.
All right. And I'm 2 hours ahead of you. So
9 a.m. or 12 a.m.
Let's do 9 a.m. next Friday. Whoops. Okay, that's in my calendar.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm excited to see how this evolves. I have the 2 children's books. A Home for Frost. One of my employees, she read it and she said there's one sentence that she said I need to fix. Otherwise, she really loved it. And so I'm going to fix that sentence. But I am wanting to send it to an illustrator. Do you guys know, do you know illustrators? Do you guys have like a list of illustrators or that Or are you good
I
at
don't.
creating
The Good and
animals?
the Beautiful has a list that they work with, but I don't manage that at all.
Who
It's not
has the
something
list?
that The Good and the Beautiful, like they have like freelance illustrators that they work with. Other people that I have heard looking for them, I think they usually source them from Fiverr, if you know that website. It's
Fiber?
kind of a Fiverr, like Fiverr
Oh,
.com.
okay.
Yeah, and it's like a kind of a freelance website, kind of like LinkedIn, but specifically for freelance. You can like post a project and be like, I'm interested in a person with these skills to work on this thing, and people can apply. People have profiles and you can like reach out to them and be like, are you interested in working on this? They usually have portfolios so you can see what their style is like. Um, so that's where I would look.
Okay. All right.
And you said you wanted to send it to the illustrators. Do you have a deadline in mind? I know
Yeah,
you said
I've
the
got to get these
ASAP.
books. I mean, my book went to the illustrator in August, and I still don't have the final. I still don't have the
Oh.
final. And I'm like, I know it's because it took me like some time to get back with him, like a week to get back with him, and then I just go back down on the list until it comes up. But
Hmm.
I really need all these books 100% done by really the beginning of August so I can send them to the printer and get them all
Right.
back
So
by the end of September.
kind of
So,
ASAP. So
yeah.
getting the text walked in terms of how we usually like again, I don't work with the illustrators, but I've seen a lot of the picture books for Good and the Beautiful and how they handle them.
Who's the big and
Usually
the
they don't
beautiful?
have to have
You said the
uh,
good and beautiful?
the Good and the Beautiful. It's the homeschool company that I work with. I do most of my work is with them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and they do a lot of children's books.
Oh, okay.
Um, Yeah. And usually what they do before they send it to the illustrator to work with is they say, okay, this is the text that we want on this page.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be completely proofread. You just know what the pages are going to be, typically
Right.
what is going to be on each page. Um, and you know you're not going to make any big plot changes,
Hmm.
or any like significant character description changes.
Right.
And if you've got all that in place,
Hmm.
you can hand it to an illustrator and have them start sketching.
Yeah, if you did have time just to kind of read through it and go, yeah, that sounds good. I need to go through and see because chat came up with the illustration brief and I want to go read through that. Um,
Mhm.
and so, but if you had time, but if not, I feel pretty confident in it. I think that some things
Mhm.
what I've learned with my first book is that I keep rewriting it as the illustrations come in and just make it better
Uh-huh.
and better and better. So,
Mhm.
I'm not really so worried about the text.
Uh-huh.
My other story is very rhythmic, where everything rhymes at the end. This book does not. And
Mhm.
I just want to make sure it's not too wordy. And so that's what I'm more
Okay.
concerned about.
What's the target age range for these?
Uh, you know, I really think probably 7 to 10, 7 to 11,
Okay.
maybe. When I say an 11-year-old, that's a kid that's been through a lot of trauma, and they're not really presenting as a real 11-year-old.
Mhm.
You
Right.
know, uh,
So they're old enough to be able to read this independently or with a parent.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So, A Home for Frost is about a polar bear whose mom disappears, basically, and
Mhm.
don't know why, and then goes and lives with the monkeys and the penguins, and then is removed to go to Alaska and meets a wolf dog and has a really good experience. And
Mhm.
then that's kind of just like the in between place before you find your forever home, and then go to another home. Um, and there really is a thing with polar bears and wolf dogs, and
Mhm.
the play bow is a real thing. So I
Mhm.
put real things in there, but um, my friend who's been in foster care said that she didn't like the ending of my story because it doesn't work like that. You go someplace that's completely foreign to you,
Mhm.
even if
Yeah.
in your next door. It doesn't feel the same. So I had the polar bear going to another zoo, just in a different location. She's like, no, that's the same. That's not what it feels like when you're a foster kid. So,
Right.
okay, I will look at that. I'll go look at Good and the Beautiful, and then I'll look at Fever, Freelance
Fiverr.
Fiverr,
Mhm.
and see, because I have this book, and then I'm getting approval for Talia's Racing Thoughts. My daughter-in-law, I think, is excited about her daughter being the person, but my son is not. So we'll see. So I might have to change the name, which is fine. But I think it's so cool that my granddaughter truly is a motorcycle racer, and she's 6. Like,
That's
that's cool.
amazing.
And so
Yeah.
I'm like, it is a cool story. I mean, when you find out this is a real girl and not a story, I think it makes the story so much more meaningful. And so
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the cute little 6-year-old wins who wants the story.
Okay, so as far as you want from me, it's just reading through it. Any thoughts on what needs to happen before it goes to Illustrator? If it's good, let you know.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's with both of them if you have time. If you don't, or if you have time next Wednesday or whatever. But I'll be talking to them probably next Wednesday to see what their thoughts are with Talia. And then I want to get both of them to go to an illustrator.
So I'll probably do that first, just to make sure that that's done. And then I'll work on the clinical book.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.